Well, we have Mr. Mashaw back today. He's back in court. You may have remembered him in the past. I'll give you a little flashback, if you will. But he's got some interesting questions to ask. And many of you may have seen this video, but I'm focusing on something no one else is focused on. So I think you'll enjoy it. So sit back, relax, and enjoy.
Yes or no?
So,
Sir, don't argue with me. Yes or no? Are we doing a preliminary exam today? Yes or no?
I object. I will address.
Answer the question.
I want to address other issues as well.
You're in contempt of court. Put him in jail.
For what?
For contempt of court.
This is 210736FY. This is State of Michigan versus Frank Mashaw. May I have your appearances, please?
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Mohammed on behalf of the people, P86771.
Would you state your name for the record, sir?
My name is Frank Mashaw. I am a beneficiary of the Frank Anthony Mashaw estate that you are administrating over, and I appoint you as the trustee for the record. Let the record show. I am here as making a special appearance, not general. I am here on the threat, duress, and coercion.
Thank you, Mr. Mashaw. Today is the day and time scheduled for the preliminary examination. In this matter, there is count 1, weapons, firearms, possession by felon. Count 2, carrying concealed weapon. Count 3, felony firearm. Are the people prepared to proceed?
We are, Your Honor. We do have a couple preliminary matters.
Before we do that, Mr. Mashaw, are you prepared to proceed?
No, ma'am. I'm actually here to get a better understanding of things first before any proceedings.
What is it that you need to get a better understanding of, sir?
For one is the jurisdiction that the court is operating upon.
Judge, I'm going to object. The court has made a decision on this motion previously. Both you and Judge Oakley have ruled on this, so I'm going to object.
Mr. Mohammed, hold on one second. Mr. Mohammed, what we will do is let Mr. Mashaw make his record.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. Constitution, the Sixth Amendment grants me the right to know the nature and the cause of the action. I know the jurisdiction that you're operating upon for the record.
The next thing, sir. The next thing. You said you had some preliminary matters, which suggest more than one thing.
Oh, yes, the jurisdiction of the court.
Okay.
Okay. You're going to.
Anything else?
Yes.
What's next?
Is this going to be criminal, civil or criminal? And I also want to, with the basis of that answer, I would like to address some other things as well.
What other things, sir?
It's pertaining to off your answer.
Mr. Mashaw, I think we had this conversation last week. Correct me if I'm wrong. This is a criminal case. It is alleged that on February being the case, the court having responded to the charges indicated to you that this is a criminal matter. The court's question back to you, sir, is are you prepared to proceed with the exam in this matter?
No. You still haven't stated the jurisdiction of the court for the record.
I have identified this court as the 34th District Court to you before, sir, and I will renew that indication to you. Are you prepared to proceed with the exam?
No, because Oakley stated that the jurisdiction of the court was Michigan statutes, and that's not what you're saying today.
Chief Judge Brian Oakley, you had a conversation with him about a month ago. We're having a conversation, well, we're having a hearing today. And sir, we're doing one of three things today. We are proceeding with the exam, you're waiving the exam, or we're adjourning this matter. Your response to my question right now is one of those three things. What are we doing this afternoon?
And you also stated that you addressed me having questions, and I had another question pertaining off your answer, and I wanted to read that.
Mr. Mashaw, no, we're not doing this afternoon. Exam, waiver.
Well, at this moment, okay, since I'm under threat, arrest, and coercion, I would like to appoint Mr. Sullivan as trustee for the.
Mr. Mashaw, you're not under any threat. This is a court. You've appeared this afternoon. This case has been called, and if you're prepared to proceed with Mr. Sullivan sitting to your left, this court will proceed. Is that what you're indicating?
Well, you say I'm not under threat, right? And if I continue to ask a question, I will be held in contempt, which is a threat, right?
I never said contempt, sir.
Well,
what we are is scheduled for a hearing, and what this court does is hearings. And I entertained some of your questions, but it is now 2:15.
We just.
And the courts, I know, sir, but I'm presuming that there will be some testimony.
Okay, but you're asking me, am I ready to proceed? And you, while you're asking me, you also telling me that we're about to proceed. So you're not actually giving me the right to answer the question. You also making it seem like you're threatening me. So,
Mr. Michaud, I'm interrupting you to tell you that I'm not threatening you.
Okay,
but I've answered all that needs to be answered from this court to proceed with either the exam, a waiver.
Okay, all right. But you haven't answered the questions that I have asked. I said I had another question, and you're still not allowing me to ask the question. So do I have the right to ask?
What's your question, Mr. Michaud?
Okay, I just want to ask you, far as, hold on one second. I want to read this for you.
No, sir. You had a question. What is your question?
Can you help me understand this? Okay, according to 27 CFR 7211, it say all crimes are commercial and must have nature and cause and be prosecuted in the name of the people of the states as a real party in interest, not the people of the state, the corporation, the fiction. This is 20 FCFR, right? So I'll need you to elaborate on this code for me, please, and thank you.
Mr. Michaud, this court will decline to elaborate or respond to that because this afternoon we are here to determine if the prosecution is able to show that a crime has been committed and that probable cause exists to believe that you are in commission of that crime. That is what we're doing this afternoon.
I understand, but
okay.
It says that possession of a deadly weapon is a commercial crime. So I need to have a better understanding if this is a commercial crime. You said this is a crime and there is no injured party where I hurt anyone. You haven't gave me the right to face my accuser. And it tells me under this code, 27 CFR 72.11, all crimes are commercial. A deadly weapon is considered a commercial crime. So I understand that commercial is civil, but you're telling me this is criminal. So how is it criminal? And it says if there must be an injured party for a corpus delicti.
Now, where in the world does Mr. Michaud get these dumbass questions? Well, here's where.
And what we're saying over here that it's all commercial. 27. Let's read code of regular. Y'all Google 27 Code of Federal Regulations CFR 72.11, and we get into the definitions of it, meaning and terms, and we can see right here. And it's really interesting. I'd like to see his response to this. Commercial crimes. Any of the following types of crime, federal or state. Federal or state. So right here, they tell you federal or state, they commercial crimes.
Well, okay. Let's just look at the Code of Federal Regulations, Title 27, Part 72, that Yusef talks about. And let's just take a look at it. Okay, here it is. Whoa, what's this? Disposition of seized property. Wonder what that means. Let's go down here to the scope of regulations. Regulations in this part shall relate to personal property and carriers seized by what? Alcohol, tobacco, and firearms officers as subject to forfeiture as being involved, used, or intended to be used, as the case may be, in any violation of federal laws. Well, now that's interesting. It tells us this whole section here, and including the definitions that Yusef uses, applies only to personal property and carriers seized by the ATF. Not for speeding, not for any state traffic violation. It's very specific. It's very limited. And as we go down, we can see here are the definitions. And the meaning of terms, it says, as used in this part. Unless the context otherwise requires, terms shall have the meanings ascribed in this section. What does that mean? That means these definitions apply only to the ATF and when they, in the disposition of property they have seized. So, in other words, This definition of commercial crimes applies to only in the disposition of property that has been seized by the ATF. Now, I have repeated myself. I've said it very clearly. I hope the doofus in this video and the doofus called Yusef understands how to read a statute. I always harp on statutory construction, and here is why. So let's continue on. And the way the courts look at those who say all crimes are commercial are seen in these cases right here. Court says, like others who cite 27 CFR section 72.11 for the proposition that all crimes are commercial, defendant is off base. And we have some cites. Then we have similarly frivolous are petitioner's claims that under 27 CFR section 72.11, he was prosecuted for a commercial crime without a contract. This is something Yusef says for you to be indicted or to be prosecuted, you must have somewhere they have to prove you had a contract, because that's the way admiralty law is. Then we have the court. Section 72.11 does not state that all crimes are commercial in nature, and in any event, this section has no relevance to the criminal prosecution of petitioner. And we've got U.S. v. Daniels there, and then we have other cases. This is something that a lot of people are using, and it's been going around for decades. I want you to be aware of this because we're starting to see more and more people claim this. And here are some other cases where people have claimed that all crimes are commercial, and the court says, you're nuts. So there you go. Check those out, Yusef. Let's continue. So Mr. Mashaw finally is letting a real attorney handle his case. So the guy does a good job, I guess. You can watch the whole video if you haven't already. But for our purposes here, here's how it turned out. And thank you all for stopping by.
This court was in receipt of a sealed copy of Mr. Michaud's record, and Mr. Mohammed proffered to the court People versus Perkins. And Mr. Sullivan, the court has had the opportunity to review the opinion, and it does indicate that the defendant bears the burden of producing evidence to establish that his or her right to possess a firearm has been restored. That being the case, the court is accepting the certified record that was tendered by Mr. Mohammed. The court also has had the opportunity to hear the testimony of Officer Stempian, and for purposes of this preliminary examination, will find that the people have met their burden and will bind Mr. Michaud over as charged. Mr. Michaud, your next appearance date will be on March the 13th, 2024 at 9 a.m. That will be at the Frank Murphy Hall of Justice. Your previously entered bond with any conditions will continue.